excited to have him here. And if you want to learn more, have you got a presence on the Well-Fed Neighbor? Can people go to Well-Fed Neighbor right now and look you up?
Yes, yes.
Okay, good.
Yep.
Good.
I'm there.
Franco Molea.
Franco Molea, yeah. Yep.
Definitely you want to check this out, because this is, to me, I think just...
I still got to get my picture on there, but I'll work on that.
Can you post this? I know Vince has been posting things. You've been watching. People have been watching. I'm getting more and more feedback about people watching your postings.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, we'll have this up on YouTube as well, so people will be able to see. So it's all good, man. Excellent. All right. This sounds like, with a little bit of an investment, with the larger system, the amount of vegetables that you can grow, I mean, you could look at it this one of two ways. One, you can look at it as an opportunity to make money and sort of get into agriculture, so to speak. But so too, I would think a system like this, you could grow enough vegetables to feed a fairly decent-sized family all year round.
Oh yeah. Oh, most definitely. I've seen kits that were much smaller than mine feed a family. So I have, my system is built to, feed myself and to, of course, supply hopefully some specialty items to a particular restaurant or restaurants, depending on, how much I want to give up of my aquaponics, which I'm not sure yet how that's going to go. But but the most thing for me is the health aspect of it. For me is growing these organic vegetables, and because you don't know what you're getting at the store is my biggest thing. We don't know if they're genetically modified, what kind of fertilization. I'm the big believer of you don't plant in the same spot over and over and over and over again. You deplete the mineral content in the soil. And so the plant doesn't get everything it needs and doesn't translate into our bodies. And give us the vibrant health that we all strive for. So that to me is one of the biggest reasons why I actually did it. And the side benefits of selling the produce, and getting some money back, yeah.
Man, I love this system. It makes a tremendous amount of sense to me. And one of the basic tenets of our program is that we absolutely believe that we're on the verge of an economic collapse in America. Your background is in electronics, mine's in economics. And when I look at the debt that this country is carrying and some of the other just ridiculous things we're doing, regardless of which party's in power, we're headed down to a very scary place. And I think that we need to be in a position where we can feed ourselves. And a system the likes of which that you're now producing and using, how much work is it once it's established? For me, I mean, it is a labor of love, but it is time to go out there and weed and take care of my plants and all the rest of it. How much time do you have to invest on a daily basis to keep your system operating and healthy?
That's a good question. Well, so I'm picturing myself. I'm walking into my greenhouse, and so I see the first thing you got to always make sure is that your pumps are clean.
Right.
Okay, so they're providing that constant water to the beds. That's the first thing you check. Second thing you check is your pH in your water and your ammonia levels. So I have a little test kit, and I'm testing that. After I do that, I'll feed my fish, of course. Every day you have to feed them. And then after I feed my fish, I'll go, after my water levels are all good, I go to my grow beds. And I'm seeing what's growing and what isn't doing well, and I'll take plants out. And if I see a plant is crowding another plant, I can simply take it out of the rocks and bring it over to another bed and plant it in another spot, and the plant is okay with it. I mean, it doesn't go through shock. It doesn't wimp. It doesn't do any of that. And so I just make sure that my plants are also getting the nutrients, they need. And then I have a big compost bin, and that I filled up with gravel at the bottom. Then I put some netting on top of it. And then, of course, I put some soil and then, household items and then some leaves in there. And what I do is every time I put water in there, I have something that I put a bottle in there, and I harness all that water because, it stays in that gravel. And I take that water and I spray my plants with it. So that provides actually more nutrients to the leaves and so forth. So it's just a slightly added benefit since it's there. And that's it. And then I harvest whatever I can, and I'm out. So once you get into a routine, it shouldn't take you more than 15-20 minutes for maintenancing.
Right.
Now, I spent today planting, because for the first time I had seedlings, I spent probably about 45 minutes to an hour, planting all my beds. So out of the 10 beds that I have and 2 tanks, I've done maybe about 6 of them. It took me 45 minutes to separate the rocks and put the plants in. But that was fun. That.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's funny how people say how long it's going to take. This funny thing is when I'm there, you can't get me out. For me,
Sure.
I love the sound of the water. It relaxes me. It's like therapy, If people love to garden and love fish and love nature, and it's therapy. I mean, it's helping me mentally, of course, physically, and so for people that actually like it and want to do it, I don't think that's ever going to be an issue for them, the time. Sure. But if they want to come in and out, that's for them too. They don't want to deal with it that much, then they shouldn't spend more than 15-20 minutes max just for maintenance.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Let's pull the mic over so that we'll get Galen in on this for a little bit, because there's a few things that I wanted to have a chance to talk with Galen about. First off, thank you for bringing Franco in tonight, because you had said over the phone, hey, this guy is just a delightful person, and what he's doing is going to be of great interest to people, and it will be. There's no question.
He has beehive in the backyard, fruit trees. He also gardens. There's more to this story. You can.
We'll have him back.
Probably have him back one of these days. Yeah.
Because it's we've talked about this. One of the things that we're going to be doing in that little shop is building beehives and chicken coops. So
got that.
This last week, we haven't been able to spend any time together because, of course, I got sick. But you had talked about this. You've warned about this, and we're seeing it happen. And we're seeing it happen in countries that the experts thought were, in relative terms, stable. Tunisia was believed to be sort of rock-solid country in North Africa. No problems, nothing to worry about. They ran their president out. People are burning themselves alive. At least 100 people killed.
Yep.
Food riots.
Right. Yeah. The fastest way to diminish or stop these global food riots is the international monetary speculators, commodity speculators, need to be required to take physical possession of their commodity and a 6-month out time limit, so they can't speculate 2, 3, or 4 years ahead. 2 years ago, there were food riots in 97 countries because of these people making money, on the fluctuations, betting. It's simply a global casino in which human beings take the short end of the stick when these guys make their money. And we have to understand that no government has ever set about to diminish or stop criminality only to maintain their monopoly over it. That is hierarchical government. That's the fact of the world. And now we're seeing that there is absolutely no impulse or need to correct people when entire countries collapse and thousands of people are killed or murdered, as long as the system continues to do exactly what it does. The global casino is criminal from top to bottom.
Well, and that's the frightening thing here. I mean, that is the frightening thing, is anybody who is rational and approaches this just on a factual level, forget about the guys in tinfoil hats and all the rest of it, just looking at what's really happening. And more economists are starting to scream bloody murder because they see what's happening. If you aren't on a government payroll, it's irrefutable what's happening. And now, what makes this even more frightening is you've got, one, the devaluation of the American dollar. So for Americans, oil is costing more, but you've also got the increase in world demand. So either way, you've got the petrochemicals being more expensive, which means that to fertilize your Monsanto seeds in Tunisia now costs you more.
Right.
To get them to market is going to cost you more.
Right.
And I guess one of the things that I want people to recognize, as much as you and I have been talking about the problems and challenges that are growing here in America, they're happening in other countries as well. Other people are having to deal with increased oil costs, increased commodity costs, increased transportation costs, and the ability to feed themselves or not. And more countries, as you said, are coming to the realization now, and back to Franco and his brilliant idea, where, I mean, systems like this that don't cost that much, all of a sudden you're feeding your family, you're feeding your neighbor, and or you've started a little cottage industry for yourself, so that now you're earning income to take care of yourself as well. But that's an isolated incident here in southwest Missouri. Back in Tunisia, Algeria, Egypt, the experts are saying that Jordan, countries that were believed to be rock solid, now they're saying could tip over overnight. And all about food.
Yes, and this is all well known, and it's been practiced for generations. There's no mystery of what's going on here. Let me say that future historians will regard the decision to offshore the American food supply system as the stupidest political mistake made in all of human history, or unless it was intentional. You get your pick there. But what we're talking about, for anybody that wants to get into the dark side of this, just look up Paul Bremer's rule number 87 for Iraq. That's what's coming, folks. The Iraqis, to get their reconstruction money, were required to destroy their entire indigenous seed crop and buy from patented sources. We know that means Monsanto. Hillary negotiates all these things. She has raised the Monsanto hegemony over the world food supply from 83% to over 90% in just 2 years. That's where the action is. It's not Obama. She's running around creating global hegemony over the entire world food supply. That's the target. If you follow her career and what Bill Clinton has signed in 1993, under a Food Safety Act, he basically allowed for the consolidation of the entire meat industry into 8 companies and put thousands, including Missouri and everywhere, there was no health problem. They were all closed down, went out of business. Now we ship 25,000 head of cattle out of state, along with all the jobs, the butchers, everything else we had across the board. You have to follow this trail until you finally understand we've been had, and we've been had for a very long time. So this is a whole program. You could just follow, you could start taking this trail over Hillary Clinton from her being hired at the Rose Law Firm, which is Monsanto's international law firm. And they have a plan called the Young Executives. She is a young executive. This started in Germany in the 30s, and it came over here with Monsanto with the atomic, they were key in the atomic bomb production in Dayton, and all of those SS scientists came over under Operation Paperclip by John Foster Dulles.
Von Braun and the rest.
And there is a direct straight line. In 1967, Monsanto contracted with the Codex Alimentarius Commission, founded in 1963 by Fritz Termer, who was the director of Auschwitz. IG Farben in Auschwitz. There, and he fostered the young politician in Bavaria in 1953, Helmut Kohl, who then became chancellor. There is an inside organization that has been, there's a straight line all the way to the passage of Senate Bill, 510, which is essentially the outlawing of possession of food by American citizens. But we are under the American food supply system, technically and legally went under the control of the World Trade Organization last December 31st. That was signed by Bill Clinton. There is an arm's length of actual executive orders and bills. These people have been setting up global hegemony over the food system. It goes all back to the Kissinger plan. Again, and now we're going back into these murky depths where we can trace the actual people, and some of them today running around doing these things. So just saying that that's the dark side of this, and you cannot claim to be just good without, it's like a wave. You want to go for you're simultaneously creating the trough. Sure. That's the nature of the world we live in here. So we have to be careful not to make this about people or personalities, but in it's not flesh and blood. What is it, Ephesians 6? Mm-hmm. But it's
spirits and principalities.
Yeah, and evil in high places. This is the eternal drama of our lives, and it's transcendental. I mean, it's not just people. It's the entire duality that's created with every action and every word and everything we do. We can't, pretend that it's not that way. You can't have the concept of good without the opposite simultaneously being there.
Well, put on your
that's philosophical. I'm sorry about that.
Put on your little Nostradamus hat there, and not in blood, but what do you see as far as the next 2 years, 5 years, as far as not here, but given your background as far as traveling the world, knowing a lot of folks around the world, as far as food riots and just food, just focusing on that, what do you see happening over the course of whatever time frame you want to use, whatever horizon you want to use?
I see.
What's going to happen?
You can pick your country. I see famine breaking out in Mexico within a year to 2 years. It could be here. We're going to lose another 1.2 million families are going to be kicked out of this home this year by the banks taking it back. Reminds me of Jefferson's quote about banks, you know. And I think that other than we and others that are awakening up, I'm having significant meetings now at the state level with people that are like me or that woke up years earlier in their 80s, but they've been activists, founded food circles and all of this stuff, to a person. They feel urgency and that this is the moment and that we need to, to a person. And I'm setting up these circles now, 1 or 2 a week around the state that will culminate in some pretty interesting things, I think, 90 to 100 days out. So,
well, in the book of Revelation, it talks that as we approach the end times, that the whole of creation will be groaning. You look at the massive number of earthquakes that we've had, record number of earthquakes. You look at the flooding that's going on in places like Australia.
Unreal. I mean, it's unreal what's happening there.
Somebody, and I forgot to get their name, but someone that's in the know said that we are one weather incident away from massive crop failures in the world. And they pointed to what happened in Russia this year. And the fact that because of what happened, Russia is no longer exporting; they're keeping all the wheat they have for themselves.
Right, and flour.
Well,
wheat and both. They used to.
Right.
Yeah. Right.
So we're seeing all of this going on in the world today. We've got people going, "Yikes!" Food riots. We've got other people saying, we don't know what's going on with the weather and earthquakes and all the rest of it, but we do know that if one bad incident happens to a wheat crop or some other major crop, we're looking at famine situations in large tracts of the earth.
I won't mention the crop or the agent, but there is let's call it a mold that flows on the wind and destroys monocrops. One package of that in a rented car here in the Midwest in this country is over in 2 weeks. We're talking about hundreds of thousands. I think 264 million bushels of wheat, say, just in Kansas, to give you an idea. That would be destroyed in 2 weeks. We have nothing to replace that. We are one incident away that could cost $300 total for the enemies because of our industrial monocropping and the military industrialization of our food supply system. We are a hollow tree. It's one wind. That's just one event. I mean, there are people that swap stories on the internet of how cheaply they could bring down the whole country. I think that $300 estimate, that's by not any means the lowest, but I'm not into that kind of nonsense. But I'm just trying to convey in broad terms, from a much deeper strategic knowledge about agriculture and agricultural pathogens and stuff, people need to be asking themselves every night while they're brushing their teeth, why haven't they hit us yet?
Well,
that's all you have to say.
And can that happen? Absolutely.
Absolutely.
But it may not even be that. What I'm saying is that given the current climactic conditions in the Earth, you've got speculation now that the jet stream has moved. They've had to change the coordinates on the end of the runway in Tampa.
Yep.
And they're having to do it in other runways because the magnetic North Pole is moving in the direction of Russia 21 miles a year. The magnetic North Pole is shifting 21 miles a year.
A year, yeah.
I mean, so there's something.
Yep.
I mean, could Al-Qaeda hit us? Could Joe Schmutz, terrorists, or us hit us? Yes. But it could just as easily be, just a goofy weather phenomenon that I mean, I guess the point I'm trying to make is we have hooped ourselves. Yep. I mean, we have absolutely hooped ourselves by not doing the sorts of things that Franco's doing, by not doing the sorts of things that you're suggesting.
Yeah.
We've put ourselves in a place where people can openly speculate on the internet, boy, this could all come to an end real fast, and it could.
And I think to that point, I think at the Campbell Library on Friday at 7, they're showing the end of suburbia. Mm-hmm. So if there's people out there that are waking up and they're saying, but gosh, my wife or my spouse or husband, my kids, they think I'm nuts, they won't listen. They're not going to listen to you. Have them see the end of suburbia. Then grab their little pasty, shocked faces and tell them, that's what I've been telling you about. And then you're going to have a conversation. Sure. This waking up right now is the number one priority for everyone. The future of food, Food Inc., the future of the world according to Monsanto, dirt, Tapped, or the one about the selling of the water supplies under American to foreign banks and so forth. People have no idea what's going on. All of these things are the initial stages. But then we stand firm because we're doing this. We are on a plan, a program, a vision for a sustainable, peaceful, inclusive Missouri, prosperous, that can feed itself. The question to ask anybody in charge of anything right now, if Missouri has to feed itself again, what's it going to take? I don't know how many PhDs or politicians or people that have presided over the complete dismantlement in my adult lifetime of billions of dollars worth of the infrastructure we have to feed ourselves, and engineered this flood of jobs and everything, but when they export your food supply system, they're messing with your life, and they have taken away all choice of future for anyone out there that's got kids or grandchildren. They have one choice left in their life, outside of your fantasy of what they're doing. Restore a regional food supply system here that feeds the people in southwest Missouri as the first priority to your life. Everything else is your distraction, or your obsession, or your personal needs to survive. We understand that part of it, and a lot of people, that's all they can do right now. They're hanging on by one fingernail, and it's going to be like when the Titanic goes and they all start sliding off, one or two here and there, one or two with somebody froze to death last week out here, Grant. I mean, we're starting to see it, and people are not. What I'd like them to do is the next time they go down Chestnut or Commercial and start looking at those hollow grain towers and those collapsed and empty processing buildings all over this town, and that's what's necessary for a free people, to remain free is to stay in control of your ability to feed yourself. We have lost control of our local, regional, state, and now national food supply system at every level. So I think we have a positive program of how to turn that around. For the nuts and bolts people and for the nuts and berries people. Doesn't matter. We got an answer. Wellfedneighbor.com, and we're gonna do this. The last thing I would tell you is, people will use this in order to sell you something. Do this and then buy my gold bar, or buy my packaged food. Fear will not help us in any way. It robs strength from the mind at every level. You cannot have fear unless you first of all have faith in your fear. So where's your faith? You can either live in the moment and in the joy of the strength that transcends the temporal stuff, or live in fear and then miss both the peace nothing's happened right now. We're still sitting in this room, we're well fed, we're warm, all of these things may be coming, but right now we couldn't tell 1 minute from now what's going to happen. So let's at least maintain our balance and work to organize, bring people together in a comprehensive, coordinated, joyful way, and reestablish our future, our food, and every job we have lost. We can bring back tens of thousands of jobs here. It means we have to spend local, give that extra dollar to our neighbor. His kids, their life becomes important. That little kid may be the one that feeds us next year, because gosh knows, the last people going to do it without big government, big oil, and big pharma are 80 years old guys, and when that knowledge is gone, ain't nobody coming to feed us. So that's what I'm trying to communicate in the nicest way I can.
You did a good job. Franco, do you have a website established yet? Do you have a business set up yet, or is that still something that's coming?
It is something that's coming.
Okay.
My website should be done in the middle of February.
Okay, well, as soon as you get that,
Okay.
let me know, and
Okay.
we'll make sure we promote that so that people can find you and learn more, okay? And
thank you.
one, I definitely want to come out and see, and two, we really would love to have you back in the not-so-distant future. So thanks for doing this tonight. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Cool. Galen, we will reconvene next week. And,
You bet.
I'm not sure what we'll be talking about then, but it will be good.
I really like this arrangement of bringing in fresh people with exciting things. It's a lot less work for me to find somebody
go.
maybe to do it.
There
They
you
can
go.
come here and
There
say
you go.
that.
There you
People
go.
have heard me say these things, and I'll just keep saying them until I hear them coming back. And we are. There's a lot of. I want to
Good.
share off camera some news
Good.
with you. It's going
All right.
well.
We have been wandering down the road of the Book of Acts and the power of the Holy Spirit and revival. And last night we had a great discussion on hypocrisy and challenges to a body as far as being real versus the pasted-on phoniness. Well, we're going to keep going down that road tonight. We're in Acts chapter 7 and 8 tonight, so I'll have that for you when we come back, and a couple other things I want to share with you tonight, too. Franco, Galen, again, that was awesome, guys. Thank you. We'll take about a 2 or 3 minute break here, and we will be right back. You are Crossing the World.
Hi, I'm Rebecca St. James.